like that.
I like it research.
Chapter 36.
Okay. One of the things that you produce as you go through your everyday life is nitrogen waste.
I love this thing.
Y'all know what this is?
Protein. Amino acid chain.
It's a protein. It's a chain of amino acids, right? These things are all over your body. Your body makes them, puts them together, and your body can also tear them apart. And so, for instance, if I eat a big protein shake, and I don't need all that protein right away, I'm not building a bunch of enzymes, my body will tear up that protein, metabolize it, and use it for something else. Use it for energy, maybe. Does anyone remember the structure of a single amino acid?
The carboxyl.
Structure?
Like an
Yeah.
R
It's a
group,
nitrogen.
Hex.
It's got a carbon in the middle.
a nitrogen
Oh.
base.
It does not have a nitrogen base. You're thinking of a
Nucleic acid.
of a nucleotide from
Isn't
DNA.
it like H and H?
Is it carboxyl? Is there a carboxyl?
There is a carboxyl, a COOH group on one
Hydroxyl?
side. That's also known as the acid group.
And a hydroxyl?
Nope, that's a hydroxyl.
Is there an R group?
Sugar.
There is an R group hanging down here, and that can be a number of things. Very good.
Isn't the other one like an amino group?
Yes! Do it, Jonathan. There's an amino group on this side. What's an amino group?
That's N, no.
It's an N
H2.
with two H's. That's an amino acid. You ought to know that structure.
I got the carboxyl part.
That's one of these things. And why are these things all different colors? Do you remember that? This is good review.
The R group.
The R groups are different. Do it, Steph.
So how many R groups are there? Again.
20 different R groups.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's 20 major ones. There's like 4 that are hardly ever seen. I think there's 24 they've ever discovered. But anyway, it's this amino group that is the source of your nitrogen waste. Because if you eat a bunch of proteins, and your body doesn't need the protein right away, your body, your liver, will remove this amino group. Yank it off of there. And now it's poison. And it's got to be gotten rid of. And what ends up happening is, it's put into your blood, and you end up peeing it out. It's the yellow stuff that's in pee.
Wait, why does the amino group?
They take this off because all of this can be used to make other things. It can be used to make a fat, for instance. Fat is just a bunch of carbons and hydrogens and oxygens. And so if the liver takes this off, it can make fat out of it, which it does, and then the fat can be stored under your skin. So you can eat pure protein and get fat. And you pee out all the nitrogen. And that's the smelly yellow stuff in pee.
That's if you don't exercise, right? After you eat the protein.
Most of us eat more protein than we actually need. Most that happens because we eat a lot of protein. You like steak, you like meat, cold cuts. It's got a lot of protein in it.
What about bodybuilders? What do they use?
They scoop straight protein from these big jars that they buy at GNC. I shop there in a wife beater usually. You have to have the right look when you go into GNC. Anyway, this nitrogen, when it's pulled off, it's not called an amino group anymore. When it comes off, it's called NH. What'll happen is another hydrogen will bond to it, and it'll be called ammonia. You ever heard of ammonia?
NH3.
NH3? Ammonia is highly toxic. I don't know if you've ever smelled it. Even just smelling it, you're like, whoa. And there are organisms, I'm going to kind of do this backwards here. There are organisms, fish, that tear the nitrogen group off their amino acids, and ammonia is created, and the fish can quickly dilute that ammonia so it doesn't become too toxic. And the reason why fish can quickly dilute the ammonia is because they're living in an ocean that has lots and lots of water. There's no scarcity of water. And if there's no scarcity of water, you can just tear these NH2s up. They become ammonia, which is quickly excreted from the body, diluted with water in the ocean. All animals that are in the water have ammonia as their waste product. And that's what they're peeing out, ammonia. But we're a little bit different. We're a mammal. And mammals, as well as adult amphibians, and sharks too, we don't create ammonia because we have to keep the nitrogen in our body until it's time to pee. We're not always peeing like a fish is. We're not always excreting our nitrogen product. Yeah, ocean fish are kind of constantly getting rid of ammonia. Yeah.
Isn't that why if you don't change water in a fish tank, they'll die because of
the too much
ammonia
nitrogen.
levels or something?
That's right, too much nitrogen. Yeah. Yep.
So why isn't the ocean bad for us?
Well, there's so much water in the ocean, it dilutes the nitrogen, so it's not that high of a concentration.
So when there's so if you if there's
Yeah.
a ton of fish in a pond, then it's really ammonia filled.
The nitrogen levels will build up in that tank right there. The nitrogen levels are probably pretty high. I got to change the water every now and then, and I squirt in a chemical that binds the nitrogen to keep the nitrogen levels from getting too high. Or they'll be swimming around in poison.
That binds the nitrogen with what?
Some chemical that takes in the nitrogen. I don't know how it works. Some chemical that binds nitrogen.
Under a raccoon, it says that sharks and mammals
Yes.
don't use nitrogen. How come sharks and dolphins don't just do what fish do?
I don't know. I guess they use the what they came with evolutionarily. I'm not sure why sharks don't. That's a good question.
So we don't have ammonia, even when
We don't use ammonia. What we do is when we take off these nitrogen groups from the amino acids, we hook them together to a carbon group and an oxygen group. Our liver does this for us. And so there's an amino group, and there's an amino group, and it's hooked to a carbon and an oxygen, and it forms a compound that's less toxic. It's called urea. That's the yellow stuff in your pee. You have urea in your pee, and urea is less toxic than ammonia. It takes energy for us to make that molecule. Your liver uses ATP to make that molecule. So the advantage is it's less toxic. The disadvantage is it takes energy to make. But we don't have any choice because we're not living in water. We can't quickly dilute our nitrogen waste like a fish can because a fish is surrounded by water. And I'm not sure why sharks don't do that. That's a good question. Sure, there's a reason, but I don't know what it is.
So where is this first part happening in you? The whole
In the liver.
No, all of the all of the proteins. Where are they all floating around? Where
Well, when you eat a steak, it's a bunch of protein.
Yeah.
It goes in your digestive system.
Yeah.
Your digestive system tears it up into individual amino acids.
Okay.
The amino acids get in the blood. They float to the liver. The liver decides if you need amino acids right now or if it should tear them up and make them into fat or something like that.
Okay, so then it will tear off the nitrogen and connect it with oxygen and carbon.
In us.
And then it makes urea.
That's right. And then it releases the urea into the blood. And the urea makes its way to the kidneys. It strains it out of the blood, and you pee it out. This is a much more highly complicated molecule. Can you tell just by looking at it? Uric acid is not hardly toxic at all. You can take these animals, insects, birds, and reptiles, have evolved a way to take their nitrogen groups and hook them together to make a completely non-toxic molecule. Or not completely non-toxic, but mostly non-toxic uric acid. And you can hold uric acid in your body for a long time. And you can excrete it as almost a solid paste, which is what bird droppings are. And you don't have to mix it with any water. And so this making uric acid is a good thing if you're living in where water is scarce. Birds do it because they don't want to carry around a lot of water in their body because they have to fly and water's heavy. So if they make uric acid, their body stays light and it's easier for them to fly. So, and reptiles do it because often, like lizards and stuff, they're located in areas where there's not much water and they have to conserve water. So it's a good idea, just keep in mind, if you have to conserve water for some reason, you create uric acid. If you got plenty of water around, why waste the energy? You don't need to. Just make ammonia. And if you're somewhere in between, you make urea, you dilute it with some water, but not much. And that's why when you pee, it's not all urea. 95% of it is water. But you've diluted it some. Question?
So technically it's not bird poop, it's bird pee.
It's not what?
It's not bird poop, it's bird pee.
That's what bird droppings are. It's poop and pee
Okay.
combined. They have one area that collects the nitrogen waste and it collects the poop waste. And they release it as a paste, but there's not much water with it.
Why is it wet?
Well, it's got a little water with it, but not much.
I got pooped on by birds.
I mean, our pee is 95, maybe 98, even 99% water at times. Their pee is probably less than half water. So they need a lot less water. Probably less than that. I don't know what the number is. So you need more water to excrete it. As you go to the left, you need more energy to produce it as you go to the right.
I don't understand that little arrow thing at the bottom.
That looks like a misprint. It should be energy.
Okay.
You change that to energy, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Is that what our body does when we drink water? Yeah.
Some of it, yeah.
So when we drink water, what does it do on our body?
Well, your body, your blood has a certain percentage of water. Every cell has to have a certain percentage of water. So if those get low, you have to drink to restore that. Some of the water needs to go to your bladder to dilute the urea that's coming in.
I see.
So when you drink a lot of water, your pee's
Mm-hmm.
So it's fair.
If you have any extra water in your body, the way to get rid of it is pee. If you go chug a big gallon of water, you're going to be peeing clear just to get rid of it. You keep a certain level of water in your body.
So is it good to drink? Like, I mean, they always say it's like really good to drink tons of water, but
You drink too much, you can die from it, right?
Too much of a good thing is always bad. You don't want to be dehydrated. You can't be overhydrated because you just pee it out.
So you do want the urea?
Well, you have to form some sort of nitrogen waste, right? Because you're tearing off these nitrogens. So which kind do you want to form? Which one of these three kinds would you want to form?
The middle.
You can't form ammonia. That's too toxic. You'd have to be constantly peeing. Uric acid would take a lot of extra energy for you. So why not form urea? This shows the excretory system of a flatworm up here. A flatworm has special cells called flame cells. And they're called that because they have little cilia that beat back and forth. And some scientist saw that, and he said it looks like a flickering flame. And he called them flame cells. And what they do is when extra water gets in the body of the flatworm, which it often does because the flatworms are found in fresh water, the flame cells beat their cilia and push it out. That's the simplest organism we've ever found that has an excretory system. A
That's
flatworm.
pretty cool.
It's called a flame cell excretory system. Now, an earthworm has an excretory system that's a lot like ours. So our type of excretory system started evolving in the worms hundreds of millions of years ago. And it's called a nephridium. And what happens is there is a opening right here called the nephridiostome. And water goes in this opening. And water from inside the body coils around through a series of coiled tubes. You see how we have a bunch of coiled brown tubes here? And if you'll notice, blood vessels from the earthworm are wrapped around the coiled tubes. And so what happens is body fluid from the worm gets in this tube, goes around here, and eventually is excreted out the side of the earthworm. Earthworms pee through their sides. Think about that next time you're holding an earthworm. It's peeing out little holes in its side. Every segment of an earthworm has these openings on the
Is that
side.
why they're wet?
Could be. Could be they're just crawling around in the wet ground.
What are those little holes called?
Pores. So what is this blood vessel doing wrapped around this tube? The blood retrieves any molecules that are useful for the worm. So here we have just a bunch of fluid here going in. The blood is retrieving everything good. Sugars, proteins, salts, hormones, enzymes that the worm needs. And everything bad continues on and is squirted out, like the nitrogen waste.
Wait, so how does the fluid get into that tube?
It goes through that hole,
Goes through
the nephridiostome.
Oh, okay. I thought
It goes into the hole. It's under high pressure here, so it goes into the hole, goes through this system, and goes out the side.
And so, like, the blood vessels take out anything from the
The
tube.
blood vessels take back the good stuff.
Because they're wrapped around it, so it, like, diffuses out into the blood vessels?
That's correct. And, well, no, it doesn't diffuse. It's taken by active transport. It's pulled out actively by the cells. And we have a name for that. It's called reabsorption.
What's that? Is that when the blood takes the good stuff?
When the blood takes the good stuff, that's called reabsorption. Jonathan, you getting any of this? You're on the Science Bowl team, man. This is right up your alley.
Yeah.
Stop composing, that's it.
I'm going to fast forward through a few of these and show you our system. Our system works kind of like the earthworm system. We got a couple kidneys. There they are. They're located kind of high up towards your back. And from the kidneys are two tubes. They're called ureters. Or ureters. People in the South say ureter. And the kidneys reabsorb stuff from the blood that's good, and the waste goes down these ureters into your bladder, and the bladder fills up eventually with waste and water, and you pee it out through your urethra. Your urethra is the tube that goes out.
Wait, why does it take out the good stuff?
Because you don't want to be peeing out good stuff.
Really?
And I'm going to show you how this works. You only want to pee out the bad stuff. And this shows you how it works. Let me go back one. Here's your kidney up close. And here's a big blood vessel coming into the kidney. This red one is an artery that enters the kidney. And the blue one is a vein that leaves the kidney. So the blood comes into the kidney, goes up, and then here's a little, doesn't that look like a curvy tubule like the earthworm had? Doesn't it look kind of like what the earthworm had? Let's look up close. What happens is blood comes in, it comes into this curvy tubule, and the curvy tubule has a name. It's called a nephron. A nephron. See that word there? Nephron. And the blood comes into the nephron, and there's a bunch of capillaries right here, which have holes in them. And all the stuff comes out of the blood at this point. Water comes out of the blood, sugars come out of the blood, salt comes out of the blood, hormones come out of the blood, everything, waste comes out of the blood, everything good and bad comes out of the blood there, except for the blood cells. The holes aren't big enough to let the cells out.
Are that capillaries?
Yeah, this is a big bunch of capillaries. It's called the glomerular capsule.
What's the only thing that stays? Red blood cells?
Yeah, red blood cells stay, and some water. Not all the water exits, but some. Most. And then all that good stuff and bad stuff goes through this convoluted tubule. Convoluted means curvy. And during the journey through the curvy tubule, guess what the blood is doing, Emery?
Taking it up.
And what's that called scientifically?
Reabsorption.
There you go. The blood is reabsorbing the good stuff. And the bad stuff and some water continues on.
That happens in the convoluted tube?
Yeah, convoluted tubule. Convoluted means curving.
So it's literally called a convoluted tubule.
Yes. Every kidney has about 1 million nephrons. So you got 2 kidneys, so you got about 2 million nephrons in each kidney.
How many?
That's how your kidneys work.
What happens when
A couple
your
million.
kidneys fail?
What's that?
What happens when your kidneys fail?
Well, when your kidneys fail, they're no longer straining the blood. So you're not getting rid of the nitrogen waste. You're not getting rid of the urea. And that'll kill you in about 3 days.
And that's what need
So people whose kidneys fail have to go to the doctor about every 2 days
dialysis.
and get dialysis, which they take the blood and it goes through a machine, and the machine strains it for them and gets the nitrogen waste out.
So if you don't have, if both of your kidneys fail, you would have to do that every
Both your kidneys fail, you'd have to do that. If you have 1 kidney, you can live, that'll work okay.
My uncle.
But 2 kidneys, you can't live with. And so there are people with kidney disease, often kidney disease strikes both kidneys, that just have to go to dialysis every 2 days for the rest of their life. It's a long procedure, and it's no fun. And they wait on a list for donor kidneys. And they usually don't live very long because it's not a perfect system. And if you miss one of the strainings, you die.
How do they strain the blood? They have like a port.
It's a machine. You remember that dialysis tubing that had the little holes that we use? That's used in the dialysis machine. Yeah.
How does it get into the convoluted tube?
The blood comes in like this, goes over here, and these capillaries have a bunch of little tiny holes where the stuff exits the blood. Yes?
Why is it, so it only goes into the tubule so that way the bad stuff can keep going and the good stuff can get taken back out again?
That's it.
So it's kind of like the lungs, but it gets like more oxygen, but it's like the good stuff. Like it just like gets the good stuff.
I don't think it's kind of like the lungs, but it's, yeah, the bad stuff keeps going, all the good stuff gets reabsorbed.